Where should you invest your money in 2018? That's the question we've been asking all week on Inside AB, and today we are looking at Forex. I'm joined by Eddie Taylor here. I'm Jeremy Lawrence. Welcome to Inside AB. Okay, Eddie, you were talking to George Batrouni, head of Middle East ActivTrades. What did he have to tell you this week? You looked at sterling, where it's been a tough year.
Well, the overriding theme that he's talking about is stability. That's the key word in all Forex markets. They don't want political environments that are kind of riven with any kind of controversy or any kind of instability, any kind of political upheaval. So this is where sterling for him is in a little bit of a sticky patch in 2018. A little bit, yeah. There are doubts about Theresa May. There are threats about possibly an election at some point in 2018. And of course, there's the big one, which is the ever-present issue of Brexit, which will wind its way through the political landscape throughout the whole year. So against the euro, it's looking particularly weak. And they reckon that by the end of 2018, it will actually achieve parity in value terms, which has obviously never happened before. So it might still be okay against the US dollar, and it's seen a little bit of a surge this week as the dollar weakens, but sterling under a bit of pressure this year.
Okay. You mentioned the euro. Surprisingly good year for the euro. Is that going to continue?
It will. I mean, that's certainly George Batrouni's argument that the euro is going to have a really, really strong year, again, particularly against the two principal currencies of the the dollar and sterling. The one issue with Brexit, which is very, very interesting, it seems for the Eurozone, there's actually more consensus. There is more sort of unity and there's more of a unification kind of drive that's going on now, particularly as the likes of Macron and Merkel in their elections last year have seen off the insurrectionist, populist, right-wing movements that have wanted to kind of espouse a separatist or more of an isolationist trend. So there is actually a more a cohesion in Europe right now, and also the key economies of France and Germany are doing really, really well. I mean, both DAX and the French exchanges are kind of trading near their highs, which were achieved at the back end of last year. So they think that the euro is all set fair for a pretty decent year in 2018.
Okay. Well, it's been a while, so that's good news. The dollar, I mean, what do we have to say about the dollar?
It's been tanking. I mean, you know, and there's a sort of two issues with this, really. I mean, just sort of talking about the numbers. I mean, it went from the euro went from $1.22 to $1.24, and then they reckon it's going to get to $1.30 sort of by the end of the year. That's
right.
Kind of the Forex exchange's target. So that's a real weakness of the dollar.
Right.
And there's a lot of downward pressure generally. Mainly through things like inflation, obviously the tax cuts and more money in people's pockets, the rising price of oil, which is a big deal in the US. There's inflationary pressure there. And there's also a political feeling. We actually heard this echoed at Davos just this week with Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, actually espousing he doesn't mind a weak dollar because it's good for trade, it's good for exports. And Donald Trump himself made the whole issue of balance of trade a big part of his campaign. He thinks that the Chinese have been manipulating their currency, and he wants America to kind of have a much lower value dollar to basically compete on the international export market.
Okay. It's a hard one, isn't it, the dollar? You'll notice I was lost for words there, really. Just with Trump, you just don't know what's going to happen.
And we've seen the correlating facts. We've seen gold actually push up to trading at highs, much higher than people actually thought, already into the 1350s, 1360s, again, set against that lower, weaker dollar. So it's a very, very interesting sort of little kind of push and pull factors against the dollar right now.
Of course. But none of that matters because Justin Trudeau is going to save the world and the Canadian dollar is going to soar.
Well, that's been the prediction. It's actually gone through a little bit of a wobble at the beginning of the year. But the back end of the year, everyone was saying that the Canadian dollar is going to soar and it's going to achieve new heights. And it has, but then people are now talking about it's a little bit overbought and head and shoulders patterns on the chart and all that kind of stuff. But there are things that go in Canada's favour as an economy right now. Very low unemployment, which is obviously a very good thing, and Canada is a major exporter and producer of oil. And any economy that's got oil as a big part of its GDP is going to do well this year.
Yeah.
So the combination of kind of stability, as you say, Trudeau's, you know, the knight in shining armour come to rescue the West against itself. And on the flip side of that, the instability and chaos of the Trump administration, we do think that despite the US economy doing a bit better in 2018, we do think the Canadian dollar will continue to be bullish against the dollar for most of the year.
Okay. Well, it's always a difficult one to predict, but there's obviously some trends that are emerging for 2018. So there's some ideas on where to invest this year. Thank you, Eddie Taylor. You've been watching Inside AB. Please do join us every weekday at 10 a.m. and do subscribe on our YouTube channel. Bye.